Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Sulaiman Alede. Now, leader of the Niger Delta Volunteer Force and ex-Niger Delta agitator Asari is accusing the Nigerian military of being behind 99%. You heard that right. 99% of oil theft in Nigeria. He made the allegations after meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja. Asari also expresses confidence that the menace will be reduced to zero. Adeswa Mora has more on this.
Nigeria, as Africa's largest oil producer, heavily relies on its oil revenues to fund critical sectors such as education, healthcare and infrastructure development. However, the rampant theft of oil has resulted in substantial revenue losses for the government, estimated at billions of dollars annually. Upon assuming office, President Bola Tinubu directed security and intelligence agencies to take decisive action against oil thieves in the country. Ex-Niger Delta agitator and leader of the Niger Delta Volunteer Force pays a visit to the presidential villa. Asari alleges that the bulk of all oil theft is being perpetrated by the Nigerian army. He, however, pledged his support to the federal government to ensure the age-long issue is brought to an end.
99% of oil theft can be traced to the Nigerian military, the army and the navy especially. The army and the navy intimidate the civil defense, who are by status the people who are supposed to guard these pipelines. Myself and my brothers, I assure the president that there will be zero oil theft and vandalization in the Niger Delta. We're going to work with NNPC, PCL, and the IOCs to make sure that oil theft is brought to zero.
President Tinubu reportedly assured Asari of taking decisive actions in the coming days to address the matter.
The president is a strong president. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He's going to take decisive action to get these rotten eggs. It's not the old army and the navy. There are a few who have this entitlement mentality. A better persona, I get power persona, I get people where they up, where go to cover me. The president is going to remove them and make it possible for the people of this country to benefit.
In addition to tackling oil theft, the discussion also touched on security issues such as terrorism, banditry and militancy. He criticizes the narrative that the military is under-equipped to effectively combat these challenges, describing it as a form of blackmail. Asari calls for more robust efforts in addressing security threats.
There's a full-scale war going on. And the blackmail of the Nigerian state by the Nigerian military is shameful. They said they do not have enough armament. And people listen to these false narratives. They are lying. They are liars. I repeat, they are liars because I am a participant. I am a participant in this war. I fight on the side of the government of the Nigerian state, in Plateau, in Niger, in Anambra, in Imo, in Abia, and in Rivers State, and in Abuja.
The methods employed by oil thieves have become increasingly sophisticated, and despite previous steps taken by the Nigerian government, including engaging local communities, the issue of oil theft remains an intractable and involving challenge. President Tinubu's consultation with various stakeholders, including Asari Dokubo, is part of ongoing efforts to address critical national issues comprehensively. Adeswa Omoruan, Arise News.
And this is the part of the program where we go behind the headlines and dig a bit deeper. with our guest commentator who will help us explore the stories and issues of the day. And today, I have the current affairs analyst, Professor of Communications and Deputy Dean of the Postgraduate School at Bayes University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Good to see you and thanks for your time. And I saw you for a moment, keenly watching that. And how does that, because perhaps people should be asking about his sources, because he placed a percentage mark on that, say 99%. That is something that he needs to really come clear or clean on.
Well, so many things so many things occurred to me from his pronouncements. Yeah, we know Asari was a relatively unusual person, somewhat bohemian, somewhat disposed to speaking without discretion sometimes. But I was wondering why he chose the pedestal that he chose to express this. Could it be probably because he went to brief the president about his allegation, and that's why he decided to talk to us from that pedestal? And again, he said that he's going to start to challenge them. He's telling us that he's got the capacity to challenge the Nigerian military that he accused of these thefts, And again, of course, that even if there are some bad eggs, consistent with the variable theory in criminology, you do not expect that the percentage will be up to 99%. There must be some hyperbole there, some level of exaggeration. But ordinarily, I would have thought that there should have been some discretion, some moderation, especially when you are critical. We are being critical of a very important institution like the military. The military is historically, even in contemporary times, one of the most respectable profession anywhere in the world. And in Nigeria's circumstance, the role they have played in the last 12, 15 years in the stabilization of democracy, in the stabilization of the Nigerian nation state, cannot be undermined by any means. And it's not an institution that we should ordinarily disparage the way he did it, even though we're not saying that they are devoid of bad eggs, or we're not saying that they don't have imperfections. Remember, we're also in a democracy where they are constantly playing some roles, somewhat different from the kind of role that we'll see even in civilized society. And I will give you an example. In the United States, for instance, when we're watching handovers, you hardly see some levels of military presence. But in Nigeria, even if you may say it's an intangible, but they give some color, to that process of handing over. And of course, you can see the submission of the military authorities to the civilian authority, from the symbolic handover of flag, carried out by the head of the military, as the case could be. In this case, like we saw on May 29, the Chief of Defense Staff, handed over the flag of office to the President and Commander-in-Chief. Those things are symbolic. They might be intangible, but they just are to tell us that, yes, we're a fighting force. We've got the power, to be combative, to be aggressive, to be forceful, but we are submitting to your authority because you represent the sovereignty of our state, and you are commander-in-chief, apart from being the president of this country. That institution is a sacred one to a very large extent. There's no institution in this country that is completely immaculate, or that you will say cannot be found wanting in one aspect of the other. What matters is how well we try to address this institution and try to grow them. After all, we have made the argument severally that part of the bane of our development is the weakness of our institution. The military is not excluded, but if you want to count the number of institutions that are still functional in this country now, I'm not sure you can count up to 3 before you mention the military institution. And I think to that extent, we should give them some little regard, even though we still know that there might still be more things to be desired.
More things to be desired again. But again, I just want to quickly stir on this because some Nigerians will be miffed, while some will wonder and some will be a little bit taken aback by such statements from Asari Dokubo, knowing full well that that's a blanket, statement on the Nigerian military. What do you think the managers of because now we spoke about the advisors, and already we have a very good professional there, Dele Alake. What should the media advisors do now? Because it could be careless, it could be out of hand to allow everyone who's come to see the president speak to the media in the way Mr. Dokubo had spoken.
It's a difficult one, because you cannot be an oasis in a situation where the preponderance of people around you, are still struggling to understand that communication needs some element of decency, some element of civility, some element of circumspection. You can hardly be, the best you can do in some cycles is to manage crises that they probably will have cost for you. But there are some crises that can be too damaging, and of course you find it difficult to to manage the crisis as a case could be. In this situation, I don't know if they regard it as a crisis or maybe they regard it as something as an outlier.
But what do you think?
I think it's improper, it's too, it's an act of indiscretion, and the platform is also wrong, it's not right. It doesn't do, yes, he called the president his father, that's fine, and that's his own personal choice, but to now talk to the nation, and from that pedestal, castigating a major institution of states, doesn't look good. If you look at the sacrifices that these fellows have made to stabilize this country the last couple of years, they've lost lives, like the general you spoke to said, and of course they are still making sacrifices. It's difficult really to compare them with any other institutions. We know that they've been a disservice. They've done some disservice to this nation in the past, in the period of military rule, but the narrative has changed, and we have moved further forward from there in the last 24 years. Nigeria is gradually becoming the beacon of democracy, irrespective of imperfections. And we're making all efforts to grow it, working through the required institutions, the judiciary inclusive, And what it means is that we are growing. And we've been making the point that, the growth, yes, we are commending ourselves now at the level of longevity. In terms of quality, quality is also likely to grow with time. It's just a matter of time. And of course, the basic thing to say is that America didn't grow overnight. The United Kingdom didn't grow overnight. Canada didn't also. It all requires painstaking effort, Ours may look sickening. Some things around us may look presently sickening. But the thing to do is to stay on the message and continue to work at it patiently, irrespective of, disillusioning irritations. If we stay at it the way we're doing, I think at some point we'll get it right.
Now, speaking of which, talking about staying at it, how can the media stay on some of these issues without perhaps jeopardizing or jumping into the arena to become more, very unprofessional? I say because you recall we spoke about the EFCC, I think it was only yesterday, and you said something which was very instructive, that from the little we know, we just can't jump right in. Yes, he's been suspended. The phrase there was, weighty allegations. So we'll wait for the government to speak more as investigations are ongoing. Now, looking at what has just transpired now, Asari Dokubo pointing fingers on the military in such a manner. How can the people and even the media stay on this without actually seem to be preempting the action of the president or any of the agencies?
The media is a stakeholder. We do not have any option other than to report what he said. We can't ignore it. It's not the kind of story that you can probably spike or bury. We have a responsibility to inform the populace about what has transpired. What matters is what the populace will now do with it, what the meaning that the audience will make out of it. Do not forget, the media is also a stakeholder in all of these. As long as you stick to the facts, you are concerned about evidence-based reporting. You do not inject emotions and sentiments into it. You are not giving to misinformation, disinformation. malinformation, or in health circumstance like WHO will call it infodemic. If you do your job professionally, by being factual, and of course being rigorous with investigations, and covering all the sides, without favoring one side over the other, being very, very objective, which can also be a struggle. But if you have all the basic skills imbued with the right ethics, you can do this. We can continue to do this very well. And yes, I think the media they're not doing badly in the circumstance that we're in, considering the problematic political economy, the circumstances in which media houses exist, practitioners, not being paid, or maybe paid less, or delayed salaries, etc., all kinds of impediments, but they're still trying to keep their head above the water. And of course, if you want to grade them, you say that they're above average. But when this kind of story break, like I said, I doubt if there's anything else you can do other than to let it out. And what will come after it is what we'll now have to await. But ordinarily, I would have expected that from what he has said now, I imagine that he probably told the president about what he thought, those he thought are responsible for oil theft. But I remember also that in the period of President Buhari, about 14 billion naira contract was awarded to another friend of his, or maybe a compatriot of his, to help us checkmate oil theft. What's the condition with that? What's the updates on that? Does it mean that the Tompolo didn't succeed with that contract, and the problem is still continuing, and that's why, out of concern, it has now come to talk to the president? Is it a step towards asking for some other kind of contract so that he too can help in the struggle or something? Then if we are continuously using these individuals, then where is the place of the services? The Navy, the Army.
These are not rhetorical questions you're posing. These are questions that need answers.
Yeah, where's the place of the service? Then why should the states be keeping them, at the expense of taxpayers? So yes, I know that we're not exactly exonerating the military. From my earlier remark, I do know that they might be complicit, there might be bad eggs among them, but it's not enough really to generalize, Generalization in the circumstance can be very, very dangerous. What we need to do again is to strengthen the institutions, fish out those who perpetrate some of these things, and of course, show them the exit.
And quickly, let's close on this. General Kukashige spoke about the before democracy, and now. And he specifically gave credit to democratic government, starting with Shehu Shagari and subsequent administrations. I want you to comment on that because he spoke, he said they didn't have more training, and the suspicion they always have during the military regimes is not there in a democratic dispensation, which has actually afforded them more training, more equipment.
Yeah, no doubt they were unprofessional in the period of their rule. Were witnesses to coups and counter coups, and of course, in the military, any attempt, staging the coup is just the punishment is just death. There are no questions around it, and they can be very, very deadly in this regard. Where we lived in a situation of uncertainty. And I doubt if they actually had time to pay attention to themselves, because they were more concerned about politics, But in the period of civil rule, I think professionalism has been, the ante around professionalism has been upped. And remember that in the wake of our return to democracy, President Olusegun Obasanjo retired all those that have served in the military and that have had political exposure. Very painful retirement that happened at that time. But arguments arrive in circles that singular attempt helped to increase professionalism in the military once more, And from then on, we've had peace, and we're very hopeful by the grace of God that there's no basis for any further disturbance against the background of, the increasing clamor for democracy, even in states that you described as autocratic. And of course, arguments have also been made, that worst of civilian rule can be better than the best of military rule, because it's just a matter of freedom, a matter of happiness, a matter of rights, which is better guaranteed in a democracy rather than a military or dictatorial system, where a different idea is often seen as an obstacle that should be crushed rather than tolerated. In a democracy, you think about consensus building, peace building, but in the military, it's just one man, being the law, and of course, I think the world has moved far away from there. We have to continue to thank them for the good job they are doing, for making us sleep with our two eyes, in the face of insurgency, kidnapping, armed robbery, etc., etc. The thing, again, is for the new administration to be concerned about strengthening the mechanism that will perfect their professionalism, encourage them, boost the morals of the fighting forces, arm them appropriately so that they cannot just deal with, not just to deal with insurgency, banditry and kidnapping as the case could be, but even those who are involved in the oil theft, because we know the damages it's doing to our economy.
It's a fine place for us to say many thanks, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
Well, that's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Do join us again. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, it's goodbye and thanks for watching.